How can I help?
All right, David, are we able to talk about what happened in there? There was obviously some quite heated discussions, some accusations being thrown across the side of the room from Labour. What did you make of what happened?
Well, I was just astonished. I mean, the amount of swearing from Labour MPs, I've never seen that before. Clearly, they're very angry about something, but they were just a rabble. The various accusations were completely untrue. And really, you have to wonder if these guys are taking it seriously.
I mean, is I guess what would you believe they are angry about?
Well, you'd have to ask them. But I don't think I've seen, members of Parliament casually swearing in a select committee like that in the 11 years that I've been here. I think the fact that they made these various accusations of impropriety, which are completely untrue, and you saw that from Graham here saying, well, actually, it wasn't even his idea. There's just a huge amount of anger, misdirected, I think, and unfortunately, it overshadowed the opportunity to really inquire into the work the Ministry for Regulation is doing, which I believe is very good. It shows we're the only department, despite being, I think, the third smallest, that is actually saving New Zealanders money every day, and I'm very proud of it.
Do you accept any of their concerns regarding any, I guess, overall outside influence for the ministry?
No, because I actually don't think their concerns are genuine. I think that they're possibly a bit contrived for political reasons. But if you look at this as a small country, would you ask one of the best economists in the field for advice, and if they're willing to give it for free, that's a great thing. If they're charging us lots of money, I guess they'd probably complain about that too, but
I mean, can you see the concern that you've asked someone for advice and they're giving that advice for free? That's obviously a little bit more unusual. I mean, can you see the concerns that they might have in that area?
Well, if you look at Bryce Wilkinson wrote the book on restraining government regulation in 2004. This is a lifelong passion project from someone who's now largely retired, but of course they're happy to provide advice. And I think we need to just have a little bit more sunny disposition in New Zealand, rather than this sort of relentless negativity and assumption of ill will. Actually, what you've got is someone who has spent 20 years on trying to solve a problem of how do we get less red tape and regulation so people can live better lives.
Why did you get the Green MPs, Francisco Hernandez and Lawrence Junan, confused?
Simply because they both have a very similar style. They're both extremely pedantic. They ask a lot of questions, and they often ask quite specific questions. So that was something that I seem to be in common for them.
But it has nothing to do with the fact that they're both Asian migrant MPs?
Well, that was your assumption, and I think it's quite an offensive assumption.
On regulatory impact statements, there was sort of a comment in there that they have been sort of standard for some time. Why was there not a framework put in place to improve those before, as the ministry is being set up as one of its sort of first priority actions?
Well, it has been, but it's taken some time to do it. The Regulatory Standards Bill contains the policy work that will eventually become the rules for regulatory impact statements. But of course, we started a public consultation on it near the end of last year. That was within the first 6 to 8 months of the ministry being established. After the public consultation, we got the bill drafted, got that approved by Cabinet for introduction. It's now before the Select Committee, and later this year it should be passed. Yes, it's urgent, but if you look at the process required to actually get it done, we've just been working through that to date.
And there's been some cases where they haven't even been prepared. I mean, Brooke Van Velden sort of acknowledged with the pay equity situation that wasn't ideal, that in an ideal world Act would have had a regulatory impact statement. Why are there some situations where bills are being developed without the risk?
Well, even under the Regulatory Standards Bill, there is provision not to do regulatory impact statements, particularly if something is urgent or if the government simply believes that it's urgent and is willing to accept the criticism for not having one, which the government has done. Ultimately, regulatory impact statements are about transparency. People can judge you for the regulatory impact statements produced. They can also judge a government for not producing one. everyone. In my view, in the case of the pay equity changes, the changes being made were not placing new restrictions on how people go about their lives. If anything, it was reducing restrictions on people's lives, and that does not require the same justification as placing new restrictions on people.
And on regulatory reviews, how are they chosen? Is it a situation where someone writes to the ministry and says, there's a lot of red tape in my sector, or is the ministry sort of going out and consulting with people? Like, how are they decided?
A bit of both. So they're increasingly, sector reviews are being driven by the red tape tip line, because we're getting hundreds of people writing in and saying this is an issue in my sector. We also have a chief executive who's very proactive at going out and meeting people in different sectors and hearing their concerns. And of course, I as a minister also get a lot of feedback. We put that all together. They write reports saying here are some possible sectors, here's how we score those sectors based on the level of problem, the level of a possible solution, the economic importance of that sector, and as we go through that process, we choose the ones that we think are best able to be done. Another factor which wasn't mentioned in there is that the government has a lot of deregulation happening in different sectors, so if there's already stuff going on. So look, there's quite a lot to think about, but we go through a process where the ministry prepares the advice and I talk to them and then we choose one.
Can you sort of see why some of the opposition MPs, though, felt that some of the sectors that are chosen so far were pretty convenient for, for ACT because of work that had already been done in that space, connections already in those areas?
No, not at all. I think it's quite a scurrilous accusation. For example, to say that we've got a connection with the early childhood sector, we don't have any such connection. To say that we have a connection with the rural sector, well, we certainly do, but so does everyone in New Zealand if you look hard enough. So I just don't believe that those accusations hold water. I think they're mischievous and frankly scurrilous.
David, I missed your first comments about the angry Labour MPs in there. Could I get something from you just on that? Sorry.
Yeah, look, they're clearly very angry about something. I haven't seen MPs casually and angrily swearing in a select committee like that, not once but twice. And I don't know what is angering them, but it would seem to me that they need to get their heads back in the game and think about what is best for New Zealand. In my view, that is reducing red tape and regulation so people can live happier, healthier, longer lives.
Do you think that the chair kept reasonable order?
Yeah, I think that the chair, Cameron Brewer, was very good under the circumstances he faced.
Cool. Thank you.